Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to the channel, and on today's video we're looking at probably the most polarizing shoe out there right now. Guys, in this video I'm going to be talking about the MIZUNO WAVE REBELLION Pro 3. Let's get into it. Okay, full disclosure, MIZUNO was good enough to send me this pair of the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 for the purpose of review. However, they haven't told me what to say, they don't have any editorial privileges, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. With that said, you're going to be able to pick up a pair of the MIZUNO WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 for $250. So it's good to see that they are keeping it the same price as the previous WAVE REBELLION Pro 2 and the WAVE REBELLION Pro, because it does keep getting better. And we're going to talk about the improvements and the ride and how it's made and all that. So let's jump right in and let's talk about specs, because technically speaking, the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 has 39.5mm in the heel, 35.5 in the forefoot for a 4mm drop. Now, look, unless you are blind, you can probably see that that looks like a little more than 39.5mm in the heel. However, you also know, and unless you've been living under a running shoe rock, that MIZUNO has incorporated this big heel wedge to get around the World Athletic Standards. Now, the World Athletic Standards say that a shoe that is used in competition for road races can't have more than 40mm of stack height at 12% in from the heel. So at 12% in from the heel, we are still within this area of the wedge. So somewhere around here, which is I guess 12.5%, that is 40mm. Now when you keep coming down at the thickest part of the shoe, I think I've seen people have measured this at 61mm. So you have a lot more than what the spec sheet actually shows. And the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 is like, it's a perfect reason why we need to look a little deeper at a shoe rather than just what the spec sheet says. Now MIZUNO claims that in a US men's size 9, the WAVE REBELLIon Pro 3 will tip the scale at 7.7 ounces or 218 grams. However, in my size, a US men's size 13, it tips the scale at 9.5 ounces or 270 grams. Now, the good thing is that, at least in my size, the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 this year is 6 grams less than the WAVE REBELLION Pro 2 was in my size last year. Now, you're probably wondering, like, what am I going to compare this to? Well, I'm going to compare it to what I have on hand. So, first of all, we've got the Nike Alpha Fly 3. Now, the Alpha Fly 3 has 40 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop, and this weighs in at 265 grams. So in my size, the Alpha Fly 3 is only 5 grams less than the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3, and there isn't really much of a difference. However, the Alpha Fly 3 is a little more expensive. I think it's $275 at the moment. Next up, we have the Endorphin Pro 4. Now, the Endorphin Pro 4 costs a little less, $225, and again, we have 40 in the heel, 32 in the forefoot for an 8mm drop, but in my size, the Endorphin Pro 4 tips the scale at 260 grams, so it's 10 grams less than the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3. Okay, next up is the ASICS Metaspeed Edge Paris. Now, same price, $250. Now, the Edge Paris has the same stack height in the heel, well, technically, at 39.5mm, 34.5 in the forefoot for a 5mm drop, but in my size, the Metaspeed Edge Paris tips the scale at 225 grams, so it's quite a bit less than the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3, but honestly, it doesn't get much lighter than the Metaspeed Edge Paris. And also, I don't feel like I should be comparing the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 with any other shoe, because it isn't directly comparable. This shoe stands alone. So let's start at the top and work our way down. But look, I'm not just going to leave you hanging with that comment of this shoe stands alone. I will explain why. Just bear with me for a second. So if I hold it up, you can see we have a very thin heel collar, which is exactly what we would expect with a race day shoe. It's kind of loose, like when I'm pulling on it like this, but there is a little bit of padding right here on the heel, and it's kind of like a half moon shape. It just kind of grips your ankle right on the back of your ankle. The heel counter on the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 is actually, it's semi-rigid. It's not super floppy, but there is a little bit of rigidity here. And this is one of the areas that MIZUNO has made a big improvement, at least for me, in my opinion, because if I pull up the WAVE REBELLION Pro 2, and look, if I push this down, you can see the WAVE REBELLION Pro 2 has a super floppy heel counter. Like, there's nothing there. So there is a little bit more rigidity in the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3, which really contributed to a good heel lock, at least for me. And I can say that I didn't have any heel looseness and definitely no heel slip in the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3. Now, the upper on the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 is a very light engineered mesh, and it has quite a bit of structure to it, which is good because when your foot is in there, it feels like your foot has enough room to move around, which isn't often the case with a race day shoe. I think MIZUNO has done really well with this upper. It is extremely breathable. There are very few overlays. Of course, we can see we've got quite a pronounced underlay coming around the toe box, again, just to keep that upper off your foot. A little bit of reinforcement here along the eyelet chain, and oh, they do have that extra hole right at the top of the eyelet chain in case you needed to do the heel lock method. Remember, on the WAVE REBELLION Pro 2, I don't know if you can see that, but they didn't have it. So it's good to see that it's there if you need it. Again, I didn't need it. The laces on the WAVE REBELLION Pro 3 are a total win. These laces are phenomenal. Now, they're not like technically locking laces, but they do have a nice feel to them. They're very coarse. And when I was tying my shoes, like I did of course got a good lockdown across the midfoot, but the laces just felt like they were binding together. And as soon as I tied them, I was confident that they weren't going to come untied when I was out on the run. And yes, I agree. We want them to do one thing, right? We just don't want them to come untied. But I also want the security that I know they're not going to come untied after a long time. And I had that security with these laces. The tongue on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 it's super thin. It's a race day tongue. It's very aerated. It's almost like a very thin suede. Now again, I think Mizuno has improved the tongue on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 over the Wave Rebellion Pro 2. And I think it comes down to me just liking this material a little better. Now there is no additional protection, as in no padding on the top of the tongue on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. But as I said, I didn't have any lace bite on the top of my foot. But because there is that no extra padding, I think maybe if you suffer from lace bite, this has the potential to bother you. Now the tongue isn't gusseted, but we do have 3 lace loops. So we've got 2 on the top half and then 1 a little bit further down. But ultimately no issues with tongue migration on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Now as far as performance goes, this is another big change for Mizuno, because in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, Mizuno has now introduced a brand new foam. It's called Energy XP, Mizuno's Energy XP, and it is a nitrogen infused supercritical PIBA foam. And obviously there is a lot of it in there. Now, sandwiched in between this Energy XP is a full-length carbon-reinforced nylon wave plate, and that gives the shoe some very impressive rigidity. So look, this is a race day shoe. This shoe is made to go fast, and when we want a shoe to go fast, we really want that rigid plate. So when we load it, it will spring back. I mean, this is the Bugatti of running shoes, and I'm going to return to that analogy in just a second. But yes, we've got that new midsole, and if we come down to the outsole, this is not new. It's Mizuno's G3 outsole rubber, and just look at that. We have a full coverage of outsole rubber, which is absolutely phenomenal for a race day shoe. Because unlike I think every one of the competitors that I just showed you earlier, the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is not going to wear down very quickly. Mizuno's G3 outsole rubber is very resilient, and yeah, if I'm looking at it, unfortunately, I do see a little bit of wear on this heel here, but nothing up on the forefoot. So yeah, I stand by that. I think as far as race day shoes, the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is going to last longer than average. So let's talk about the user experience of the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. First of all, when you get this in, you're going to put it on your feet and you're going to walk around the house, and you are going to notice immediately that putting on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 and walking around is like walking in stilts. But I don't mean just walking in stilts. I mean, when you put on a pair of the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, you become Bambi. At least, Bambi in the beginning of the film, when she's all like wobbly on those legs. That's exactly how you feel walking in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Now that is a product of this insane stack height and the geometry. Remember, this heel cutout makes it very difficult to walk, because when we walk heel to toe. And the heel on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is missing. But I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Matt, the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is not a walking shoe. Who cares what it feels like to walk in? And you're right. I tell you that just so you are not put off when you're walking around the house trying this shoe out. Where this shoe excels, and really the only area where it excels, is running fast. So I have put a lot of miles in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, and I put a lot of workout miles. Now, here's the thing with me. When I take a shoe out for a workout, I will usually run a mile or 2 to warm up. I'll then knock out the workout, and then I'll run a mile or 2 to cool down after the fact. And this is probably my biggest gripe with this shoe, because it's very difficult to run easy in this shoe, especially if, like me, you are a heel striker. Now, if I'm honest with myself, I am a heel striker at all times, but my heel strikiness kind of decreases the faster I run. Now, when I go out in the morning and I'm still a little stiff, I am very much heel striking. So warming up in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is just, it's not a fun experience. And the same actually goes with cooling down. Like when I slow my pace, it is exactly as I would imagine driving a Bugatti. So if I'm driving a Veyron on the highway at 200 miles an hour, the car is going to just be smooth. It's going to be aerodynamic. It's going to be holding me to the ground. It's going to do exactly what I want it to do. That's the same thing that the Wave Rebellion Pro does at high speed. But when I slow down in my Veyron and I start driving through the neighborhood very slowly, negotiating turns, going over speed bumps, maybe making a U-turn, it's a little less fun. Let's just put it that way. It's a little less fun. And the same is true with the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. When I run slow, when I have to make sharp turns, when I have to go up and down over curbs, the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 almost becomes a burden. Now, there's an easy fix to this, especially with workouts. And I'm sure a lot of you are thinking, it's like, Matt, just go out for a couple miles, maybe in a pair of Wave Skies or Wave Riders. Those are perfectly made for what you want to do when you're warming up and cooling down. Then come back, strap on the Wave Rebellion Pro 3s and just hammer it. Then when you're done, come back, put on some daily trainers, and then go out and finish out your run to cool down. Yes, in an ideal world, that is what I would do, but I don't do it. When I go for a run, I like to get away from the house, and I don't want to spend that extra time changing my shoes. So I have been sucking it up and running easy in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, at least to warm up and to cool down. So now I've complained about the shoeing up, let me tell you what it's like to run at tempo pace, to run intervals, and basically to run at race pace, because the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is an absolute dream to run in when you're running fast, even for me, someone who heel strikes. Now, I think I read somewhere, it was at least on the Wave Rebellion Pro 2, I read somewhere that the Wave Rebellion Pro was made for people who run marathons in less than 2.5 hours. And I can see why Mizuno would make such a claim. This shoe is just made to go fast. But saying that, when I am taking this shoe out and I'm running maybe a 7-minute pace, like tempo pace, maybe even a little slower at 7:15, my running mechanics have changed so much that I am just really enjoying the Wave Rebellion Pro 3, and it feels absolutely effortless. More than that, when I am running at a bit of an effort, so I'm really trying to run fast, whether it be tempo, whether it be intervals, it actually feels like I am running faster in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 than I would with a different shoe. And when you are running fast, at least when you're running fast in a straight line, it feels relatively stable. And I say running in a straight line because once you start negotiating curves, you really start to notice the lack of stability and the very squishy midsole. And for me, someone who is admittedly not the most efficient runner, I did notice that I was having a bit of trouble with the stability of the shoe, and that presented by ankle pain, at least when I was running slow. I do have to say that I didn't notice any of that ankle pain when I was running at speed. So the speed that this shoe was designed for, the shoe worked perfectly well. But when I started running slow, I just didn't have the support to run at those speeds, and I did feel some ankle discomfort. And basically that's just because my ankles aren't strong enough to handle the lack of stability in the Wave Rebellion Pro 3. I hope that makes sense. Now, I do have to say that that ankle discomfort that I was talking about wasn't an injury, because as soon as I took the shoes off and started walking around, there was no prolonged discomfort. It was only when I was running at easy paces. So you're probably wondering, who is the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 for? And yes, I would agree with Mizuno that this is for very fast runners. So I agree with that label, 2.5-hour marathoner or faster. I think they would really benefit from this shoe. However, I'm not quite ready to pigeonhole the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 into a sub 2:30 marathon. I think the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 is going to work for, well, let me just say, I think it's going to work for any runner that lands midfoot to forefoot naturally. If you are a heel striker, I would probably recommend steering clear of this shoe. However, if you are like looking at it and you're so in love with it because it's just so beautiful, and you want a shoe that is fairly aggressive as far as it's a big stack, it's a very stiff plate, and it really contributes to moving you forward. Like as far as performance goes, this is everything we want out of a super shoe. If you are like me and you're a heel striker and you don't run 2.5-hour marathons, I still think it would work for you. I just think you need to keep it for those really fast days. Also, me personally, I'm not entirely convinced that this is a marathon shoe for me. I'm just not sure I have the strength in my ankles to wear this shoe for 3 hours and 15 minutes, because there is going to come a time in a marathon where I get tired and my form starts to deteriorate a little bit, and I start wanting to heel strike, like that contact position moves further back. And if I start getting too tired and I start heel striking, then my ankles are going to start to hurt. I'm just not sure. I would love to run in this shoe on a very straight half marathon course. So maybe one turnaround, like out and back, because as I already said, the shoe's a little bit unstable when I start going around corners. But again, that could be a product of my weak ankles. By the way, I didn't know I had weak ankles. I never think of myself as having weak ankles until I ran in this shoe. So take that for what it's worth. So now I want to hear from you. Have you run in the Wave Rebellion Pro, the Wave Rebellion Pro 2, or this, the Wave Rebellion Pro 3? And if you haven't, are you thinking of picking up a pair of these? Drop a comment and let me know. And with that, it's Matt B. This has been my review of the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3. Be kind, be happy, run well. See you in a couple of days. Look, I've got to be honest, I really think this is a phenomenal shoe, and it makes me wish I was a better runner so I could really take advantage of it.